And I would like to call up my brother, who's a teacher indeed. You know, I sit back and me and this brother go back to when we were children, sparring, learning and all that stuff. And I've learned a lot from the brother too. I've learned a lot from the brother. But what we have to do, a lot of times as Israelites, we come in this thing with so much subject, we come in with a subjective mind. You know what I mean? Where our minds are not open to grasp other insight. So sometimes we got to be objective with each other and bring forth love with each other. You understand what I'm saying? Because we got to learn how to love each other before we can go into any kind of conversation with each other. Because then we know that the conversation is coming from the heart. You understand what I'm saying? With this brother, has always been genuine. And it's a pleasure to call him up here to speak. I would like to call him Morey Avdiel. Y'all know him as Zion Lexx, but I call him Morey Avdiel, a teacher indeed. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We came here to give glory to the creator of heaven and earth. This month, or this service, or this event was themed the Exodus Memorial. So although I have a presentation to make with regard to the Exodus Memorial, the bulk of my information actually comes from a presentation that I didn't have the ability to share and give during Kemet on Trial, which was the last event hosted by us as Israelites. With that being said, Divine Prospect, get that first clip ready. Woo! I'm a different brother, extremely different. I want you to just look at that for a second. The first thing I want to say is this. Marcus Garvey, the man that gave you the red, black, and green flag that represents melanated people all across the face of the earth, one of his most famous and esteemed statements that he made is the greatest wisdom of the age is to be found in the scriptures. And he's not talking about the cannibal text. He's not talking about the sarcophagus. He's not talking about, and I'm going to say it because I like to play with y'all names because it really at the end of the day don't amount to nothing. He's not talking about the Book of the Dead. He's talking about the Holy Scriptures, the Tanakh, the Torah. Some of you know it as the Bible. The first king of Egypt, or the pre-dynastic king of Egypt, let's say that, is Narmer, correct? I happen to be a Hebrew linguist. You know what Narmer is in Hebrew? Excuse me? Leopard? No. Narmer is Nimrod. But Zion Lexx is Lion Lexx. He be making stuff up, right? So check this out. You go over to the Narmer palette. What does the Narmer palette show you? The Narmer palette celebrates the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt by an Asiatic conqueror. That sounds crazy? Because when we study and we examine the Narmer palette, the garment that he has on is not a Kemetic garment. It's Asiatic. The knife that he's holding in his hand is not a Kemetic knife. It's made in Sumerian. Let's have some fun today. Nimrod, the first human being to be defied. Nimrod was the firstborn son of Cush, who himself was the son of the biblical Ham. His kingdom stretched from Babylon to ancient Cush, which is modern-day Ethiopia, with ancient Kemet as the land of his burial, hence their fascination with death, where he was known as Osiris or Asar. Zion, what the hell are you talking about? Osiris is Nimrod? Osiris is Narmer? You damn right. Because the Narmer palette, again, celebrates the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt by an Asiatic conqueror. One of the foremost Egyptologists, Sir Flinders Petrie, said this when he dug in the Nakada II region. And my brother Divine Prospect can touch on this as well. Has touched on this as well. He said this with regard to the Nakada find. When he went into Nakata 1, he found skulls that were indicative of Kemetic people, bar none. He found pottery that was indicative of Kemetic people, bar none. He went and he dug a little further into what was known today as Nakata 2. You know what he found? Everything he found was Asiatic. Not just that, the pottery they had was more advanced. The clothing that they had was more advanced. Everything that he compared and contrasted about the Asiatic versus the Kemetic, the Asiatics were more advanced. According to archaeology, who has the oldest language on the face of the earth? Since the Kemetic community loves to quote archaeology. Do we know that? The who? The Phoenicians? Okay. Who has the oldest language? According to archaeology. Sumerians. Say that again, my brother. The Sumerians, according to archaeology. But Shaka Amos polite. Reggie, they're going to tell you it's Kemet. Do you know that the person who Kemet subscribes bringing writing to is Narmer? Narmer is the one that brought writing to Kemet. But guess what? Narmer is not a Kemetian. So if your writing came from Narmer, and Narmer himself didn't come from Kemet, that means that the Kemetic language known as Medneta is an offshoot of Sumerian cuneiform. Oh, we're going to learn today. As the unifier of nations, he was revered and even venerated throughout the world, known in archaeological circles as Menes or Narmer, and Narmer being cognate, a phonetic cognate, with the biblical Nimrod and the Chaldean Nimeru. In Chaldea or in Sumeria, they call Narmer Nimeru. If anyone is familiar with linguistics or etymology, you can see the lingual shift in the. But guess what? Zion Lexx is the type of Hebrew scholar that tells you something about Hebrew language that shows the dynamic within the language. Who's familiar with the Hebrew language? Raise your hand. Who's familiar with modern Hebrew? Who's familiar with ancient Hebrew? Who's familiar with Paleo Hebrew? All right, pictographic Hebrew. Okay, check this out. What does it say in Hebrew? Hamelech Narmer Shinar, which means King Nimrod of Shinar. But guess what? I made a statement earlier. I said that Nimrod is Osiris. You know, every single letter in the Hebrew language has a numerical equivalence. Here he go again. Every single letter in the alphabet has a numerical equivalence. So what, Zion Lexx? What does that mean? Well, the Hebrew word for father is Abba. In Hebrew, we spell it Aleph Bet. Aleph is numerically equivalent to 1. Bet is numerically equivalent to 2. Hence, Abba in Hebrew is 3. Ema is the Hebrew word for mother, and it's spelled Aleph Mem. Aleph, again, is numerically equivalent to 1, and Mem is 40, giving you 41. The 41 of Ema and the 3 of Abba gives you 44. What's so special about that, Zion? What do parents come together to bring forth? Children. So the Hebrew word for child is Yeled. Yod is 10. Lamed is Dalet, right? Lamed is 30, and Dalet is 4, giving you 44. Can we do that in the Kemetic tongue? You know, if your language cannot convey abstract information via numerical sequence, there is no depth to it. You understand that? You understand that the way that your computer contributes energy, information behind the scenes is all purely mathematical? We have any IT techs in the room? How do computers communicate, my brother? Do you know that numbers, I'll start off with letters. Letters convey intelligible information, information that your mind can grasp. Numbers communicate unintelligible information, or what is known as abstract information, which is hard for the mind to grasp. So when we get into the abstract relationship of the Hebrew language, you come out with some very interesting things. So the word for Nimrod in Hebrew is numerically equivalent to 294. And the word for Osiris is also numerically equivalent to the 94. I think the Torah is talking to us. Next clip. Salika. Okay, stop right there. Everybody pay attention to those two symbols right there. One is from Kemet and one is from Sumeria. But one was made first. Uh-oh! Let me say this again. Pay attention to those two images. One is from Kemet and one is from Sumeria. You see, where I'm going with this is very interesting. Shaka Amos actually had the audacity to ask me a question which I felt wasn't meriting scholarship, which is why I said the audacity. The question that he asked me centers around these two images right here and this idea. He said to me, I can't subscribe to the Bible because it's plagiarized information from Kemet. So here's the first thing that I want you to understand and discern. Before we can speak about what we may have plagiarized from you, you first have to prove authorship of what you have. Two of these pictures represent the exact same things. One is from Kemet and one is from Sumeria, except one precedes the other. So, one of the foremost Egyptologists, again, Flinders Petrie, says, the Naqada dig provided much evidence that led Flinders Petrie to put forth his theory of the origin of the magnificent and long-lived civilization of Egypt. It became known as the dynastic race theory, and it alleges that in the pre-dynastic era, Egypt was invaded by a technologically superior group of elite foreigners, Naqada too, who came originally from Mesopotamia. This is the foremost Egyptologist. He got nothing to gain by saying that Sumeria did this first. This dynastic race invaded and conquered Upper Egypt and settled in the city of Nekhen, also known as Hierapolis, near where the important cult centers of Abydos, Thebes, Luxor, Edfu would later emerge. Petrie referred to this invading force as the Falcon tribe. And the name of their capital of Nekon means city of the falcon. In Sumeria to this day, in the cuneiform tablets to this day, they speak of that image as, guess what, in Sumerian cuneiform. Anybody ever heard of the Kemetic Heru? In the cuneiform, that's called Haru. Very interesting. Next clip. We're going to have some fun today. Another Egyptologist, because I love objective research. So I don't want to quote a Sumerian Egyptologist on this subject. I want to quote an Egyptologist on this subject. I don't want to quote someone whose scholarship is in Sumeria because it may be biased. So I'd rather quote someone who has scholarship in Egyptology. And guess what he says about the origin of language? To deny, therefore, that Egyptian and Mesopotamian systems of writing are related amounts to maintaining that Egypt invented independently a complex and not very consistent system at the very moment of being influenced in its art and architecture by Mesopotamia, where a precisely similar system had just been developed from a more primitive stage. For Frankfurt, the answer was obvious. Egyptian hieroglyphics first appeared with the same level of sophistication as found in Sumer, because the idea behind the language and the art was brought to Egypt from Sumer. So what does that mean? Every single language on the face of the earth has signs of what is known as proto-development. Every language has what precedes it, known as the prototype, something that came before it. You know there is no proto for Medunetta? What does that mean? How did you just appear advanced unless somebody taught you something? So when you look at the Egyptian hieroglyphics on the right, you will see that when they drew the ox head, or the ox, the symbol for the ox, you'll see that the body conveys the entire ox. But this actually defies the idea of how you compose proto-language. Proto-language is composed by taking the most basic element of the image or idea you are trying to and simplifying it to one simple form. So the fact that they have a complete image of an ox shows you that they got this idea from something else. Let's move on. We're going to have some fun today. It's going to get real interesting in a couple more slides. Woo! Everybody's seeing this image all over Facebook for Easter, right? Anybody want to take a jab at what's her name? Ishtar. Nimrod, her husband, called her Semiramis. Or in the cuneiform tongue, she was known as Shamaras. Semiramis was the wife of Nimrod, or Narmer. In Sumer, venerated as the queen of heaven. This is what Jeremiah talks about. The queen of heaven and the women that bake hot cross buns. This is the woman that they venerated. Semiramis, the wife of Nimrod. Hence, she has in her hand the Sumerian symbol of life. Who knows what an ankh looks like? What does she have in her hand? The Sumerian symbol of life, which when her husband came into Kemet, it became the ankh. This actually precedes any physical recording of an ankh anywhere in the world. This is the first ankh, and its origin is Sumeria, not Kemet. I'm having fun today. Her story is told in ancient Kemet, where she becomes Orset, whom the Greeks call Isis, and her son Tammuz became Horus the Younger of Egypt. They like sources, so there's your source when y'all watching the video. Next slide. What's this image right here? Isis with Horus, right? But let's skip over because we got to find out where they got the idea from. So this is Semiramis with Tammuz. But I thought Horus, in this image of Isis with Horus, is the first known image of a divine mother with her son, giving forth life. Semiramis and Tammuz precedes it, as you see in the right corner. Tammuz was the son of Semiramis, an incarnation of Nimrod. He was venerated in Sumerian culture as the son of Nimrod, and he was the world's first son born of a virgin. His story is told in ancient Kemet, where he became Heru, or Horus, son of Orset and Osar, or Isis and Osiris. He was born on, guess what day, people? What day is Heru's birthday on the Cometian calendar? December 25th. But he celebrated it first. Let's move on. The very first Trinity originates in Babylon. The Babylonian Trinity predates the Egyptian Trinity. In fact, it is the basis for the Egyptian Trinity and all subsequent Trinities. Just take some time to get a look at that. Kemet's very first pyramid in the district or city of Saqqara. This is Egypt's carbon copy of the already existing step pyramid design of the Sumerian ziggurats, which date back to 4500 BCE. There you go. And guess who the source is? Flinders Petrie, an Egyptologist. Excuse the typo. The Sumerian ziggurat dates back to 4500 BC. The design of the step pyramid is regarded by architects and archaeology as the very first template for Egyptian or Kemetic pyramids, originating at least 2,000 to 3,000 years before Egypt's pyramids. 2,000 to 3,000 years before Egypt's pyramids. Did you just hear that? Before I go to the next slide, I just have to close a thought right here. Can we still allow them to talk about plagiarism? Can we allow a liar to talk about a liar? Can we allow a thief to talk about another thief? Why the hell are we having a conversation about me plagiarizing from you when clearly you have plagiarized already? Most of this our brother touched on, so I'm only going to touch on one. And I'm not even going to read what I wrote on the left. I'm only going to touch on one. What were we known as in Egypt or Kemet? Anybody want to take a stab at that? What did they call us? Some of what they call us, Divine Prospect already touched on just now, but I'm asking you, what did they call us? I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint. When Moses was sent to Pharaoh, do you know that one of the appellations or titles that he revealed himself and God as, he says that the God of the Hebrews has sent me to you. We all familiar with the book of Exodus, right? In the book of Exodus, Moses is sent by the Creator to say to the Egypts explicitly verbatim, the God of the Hebrews has sent me to you. So that means if Moses is recording this, that means we were actually known as the Hebrews. But here is the problem. We can't find the word Hebrew in any papyrus, right? Well, let me give you something that's just common sense. Who knows Hebrew? Raise your hand. How do you say the word Hebrew in Hebrew? Ibra, Ibrit, Abra, I'll take all of them because it's only a phonetic shift. But I'll take all of them because the consonant, and that's just etymology. And that right there is a testament to any differences that we have. Some of us say Cain, some of us say Khan, some of us say Shalom, some of us say Shalom. If you get hung up on that, you really don't have no sense. Because it all means peace. It all means yes. So when you want to say in Hebrew, the Hebrews, guess what you say? Ha-ivri. Devon already know where I'm going with this. When you want to say the Hebrews, you say ha-ivri. But you know that the letter bait is also a V. So we say ha-ivri, but it's actually ha-ibri or ha-biru. The same ha-biru that we find all over in Egypt that they say is not us. Egyptian texts from several periods detail the quotas of mud bricks to be made by gangs of laborers. I'm going to take it a step further. I showed you etymologically how we are the same Hebrews that they referred to. Now I'm going to give you something that they themselves refer to in their writings. Egyptian texts from several periods detail the quotas of mud bricks to be made by gangs of laborers. One from the reign of Ramses II mentions a group called Hapiru in Babylonian. Moving stone for a royal building in Memphis. The Apiru may have included the Israelites. Didn't Divine Prospect just says that the Apiru were a mixed people? Hence why they say they may have included the Israelites. Let's move on because this subject is done. Zion Lexx is a different brother. Study that real quick. That's real? Woo! I got to take a look at it myself. So, anybody ever heard of a book called the Bible Code? It's written by Europeans. But guess what? We have Israelites that have been studying Hebrew for 40, 50, 60 years. Some of my teachers have been studying for 50 years plus, and I have 20 years. So I was able to take the template that they use in the Bible Code and come up with my own. Check this out. Who reads modern Hebrew? Okay. So the red right there is Am, this is Abet, and this is Chabiru. When you go into the Kemetic tongue, everywhere that we are mentioned in the Kemetic, the consonant is used is the Che sound, Chabiru. Encoded in Torah is this. The Torah is encoded with references to the children of Israel as Habiru, the exact same name which is documented in ancient Kemet. This is found with a 110 letter skip in the Torah. The odds of this being mentioned in the Torah in the passage which speaks about the Exodus is 1 in 2 million. That's a mathematical impossibility. And I cross-reference it with someone who actually has the same program. Hence, matrix found. Do you know that the ancients called Tot Hanok? Enoch? Uh-oh. Build no pyramids? Let me step back. Encoded in the Torah is a credit to Enoch for building the pyramids. The Great Pyramid of Giza, which reads in Hebrew, beautiful is the pyramid, a labor in Chanok. Look at the word pyramid. What letter is that? Pate? Yafa? Isn't that pyramid? But I'm reading the Torah. Checkmate. Open up the book of Isaiah chapter 19, verse 19 and 20, and we find out something very interesting. Hebrews didn't build no pyramids. So if we didn't build no pyramids, we some magicians, because we have a template for its structure. Do you know that the Great Pyramid of Egypt, this one right here, from the apex to the bottom is 5,449 pyramid inches? In the book of Isaiah chapter 19 through 20, it says, in that day there will be an altar to Yah in the midst or the center of the land of Egypt. You know that's where this pyramid resides, right? Literally in the center of the land of Egypt. And a pillar to Yah at its border, and it shall be for a sign and for a witness to Yah. In Isaiah chapter 19, verses 19 through 20, when we add every single word in those two sentences, the numerical equivalence in Hebrew is 5,449. The same amount or height from the apex to the base of the pyramid. Checkmate. Who knows this is? One is the flag of what? Kemet. The other one is the carbon copy. But they say that when Israelites say that ancient Egypt is copied by America, that we bugging. Are we bugging? What's that in the middle supposed to represent? The sun. What is this right here? Eagle, right? It's the same damn thing. But it's going to get interesting. In Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 26, the children of Israel are promised to be fed to birds of prey. The phrase in Hebrew, to all the birds of prey, is numerically equivalent in Hebrew to America and Egypt, which is 752. Your feet shall find no rest is numerically equivalent to African American. Game, but it gets deeper. I'm gonna have some fun. Hold on. What's the first slave ship? Why did the Creator say that we will be placed on ships in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68? Because we didn't keep what? All the laws of the Torah. My Israelites, how many laws in the Torah? So the word for the good ship Jesus in Hebrew is Sefina Tova Yeshua, and it's numerically equivalent to 613. Is that a coincidence? Hell no. Let's move on. So here we go. In the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 49, it says this. The Creator will cause what? A nation who is eagle flies to come and do what? Y'all familiar with Deuteronomy 28, 49? I don't really got to quote it, right? I want you to understand this. The verse where it says, a nation whose language you will not understand is numerically equivalent in Hebrew to 1227. In Hebrew, that is numerically equivalent to Sakar, Avadim, Hatrans, Atlantit, the transatlantic slave trade. And this is a Facebook like page that I have, and a great deal of the information that I share, I write a lot, is on there. You would love that page, by the way. So again, because it definitely should be repeated, the transatlantic slave trade is encoded within the Torah in Deuteronomy 28:49. The numerical equivalence in Hebrew of a nation whose language you won't understand is numerically equivalent to the transatlantic slave trade in Hebrew, which is 1227. If you deny that, you need help. Next slide. This next slide is going to close out what I want to say. Okay, I want you to check this out. There's a video on YouTube entitled Khalid Muhammad Speaks on Spookism. In the video, Khalid Muhammad says some very interesting things. The first thing he says is this: anyone who doesn't believe that the Bible is true is not conceiving reality. That's in the video by Khalid Muhammad, a real man that stood for the red, black, and the green. Unlike the individuals you see in this quasi-conscious community who can't argue a difference of opinion without insulting their brother. But I'm weak for saying that, right? I was weak for telling Polite that I don't respect you calling me a nigger. I was weak for that, right? I was weak for saying that it's possible for two black men to trade diverse opinions without insulting each other. That made me weak, right? Or that made me spooked out, right? So in the video that you'll watch on YouTube, if you type in Khalid Muhammad speaks on spookism, and just hold it up there anyway. I know they can't see it, but just hold it up anyway just for visual. In the video, Khalid Muhammad says this. He says that there's somebody going around right now in his lifetime, in his era, who was running around teaching about people on Mars and pyramids. He was talking about Dr. York. And he said that they are taking you away from the truth in the Bible, you to accept a reality created by the very same oppressor who was oppressing us. Are you understanding that? The very same people who are oppressing us are introducing elements in our community to take you away from the truth, to introduce you to something that is out of space and beyond your grasp. Although color does not make you great, there is something very special about our color. So I take issue in Dr. York telling me that the original hue of the green man, original man is green. What happened to us melanated people? But that made your head because Polite is great with words, right? Here's what I think about Polite's words. Have a great day. Hallelujah.
They don't know. We got scholars. We got scholars. They don't know. They think because we're in the streets, you know, these dudes don't know anything, but we got scholars and we're proving it tonight.